He did that really well.
Mary Kay.
He didn't even finish his thought.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How you doing today, Mary Kay?
Doing well. Good to have you.
Great to be here.
So we'll start it off this way, Mary Kay. Offensive line. We went over a few guys that list of guys that they can think of about bringing in for basically a tryout. Where are we with the offensive line? After we left the game, we had multiple guys getting MRIs. Can you give us an update on some of the guys, DeJuan Jones, Wyatt Teller, Jed Wills? We saw it in the game, and then he left again. Where are we at with the injuries, and what do you think the Browns' the next plan of action is to kind of figure out, who to swoosh in, move around?
Well, the last thing they needed when Deshaun Watson has been sacked a league high 16 times already is to lose their all-pro right guard in Wyatt Teller. So that's not going to help matters, but they've got to get this figured out. I don't know if they can move Joel over to left tackle for a while, like he did the other day when he subbed in there. But the edges are very challenged right now. DeJuan, he's hurting with his knee injury, still recovering from that. He doesn't look like himself. I know you guys saw that. And then Jed, his first game back, that was a little bit rough there. So they're struggling up front, and they need to get this worked out as best they possibly can. If Jack Conklin can come back this week, and I know he's getting close, that will help matters a lot. So if you can get some Jack in there, maybe Jed can play a little bit. We don't know yet. We'll get out there on Wednesday and see who's practicing and who's not. But they have to figure out how to keep their quarterback upright, and he's got to have the time to throw, and then he's got to do his part. It's a bit of everything. The scheme, they have to do their part, the coaches, the quarterback, and then also let's not let the defense off the hook. You can't get into a 21-7 hole and expect that teams are not going to pin their ears back and come after your quarterback. So it's just a collective effort that they have to get to.
Mary Kay, is there anything that Kevin Stefanski can do schematically that can change things to help them right now? I mean, before you jumped on, I read some stats out that ESPN provided about how bad the Browns offense is. I mean, this is literally like the worst offense through 3 games since the Browns have been back in '99. Yards per play and third down conversions, the worst. Like, we got the 2-time coach of the year. What are we doing here?
Well, first of all, it's a brand new offense, and it hasn't gotten off the ground yet. And I would like to say this, because I keep hearing everyone saying they don't have an identity. They don't know what they want to be. They don't know who they are. And I am just not really buying that. I don't subscribe to the we have to have an identity theory, because your identity should be to be explosive, tough, fast, and those kinds of things. But from a schematic standpoint, you don't have to be jumbo or a run-oriented team or a play-action team. You can be a spread offense one week and a jumbo running team the week after. So I don't like this whole, they don't know what they want to be, and they're not being, what they truly are. They're not accepting what they are. I'm just not buying that. They don't have Deshaun Watson and all of these receivers and David Njoku to just be a jumbo running football team. That's not who they're going to be. I think you can do all different kinds of things and show different looks to a defense every week, depending on the opponent. I just don't think they've gotten it together yet at all, right? Amari Cooper finally just got it together last week. So hopefully for them, that will continue on. David Njoku hasn't been in there. I think that's hurt them. Their tackles have not been good at all. That's hurt them a lot. Now they're without their guard. So I just don't think that they've gotten off the ground yet. But the good news for the Cleveland Browns is the fact that the Ravens are 1-2 and the Bengals are 0-3. So nobody's really lighting it up yet. And they're all kind of inching along, finding their way, figuring it out. And it's going to be one heck of an AFC North hard knocks in those final 6 games.
Mary Kay, let me ask you about Myles Garrett. What's the latest with him? And is his injury one of those things that you think we might see him miss a couple of games just to rest? Or do you think he's going to continue to play no matter what, how bad he's feeling?
I think he'll play unless they absolutely drag him off the field and say, you can't play until you let this rest and settle down for a little while, or you have to come out here and have some surgery or something. Short of that, he's going to play. He's one of those gladiator warrior guys that is just going to be out there for his football team. And Browns fans can appreciate that. There are a lot of guys on the team that are like that. In fact, DeJuan Jones has been like that this season, even though he's not feeling good at all. He's out there, he's fighting, he's gutting through it, he's grinding, and you need guys like that, obviously. So I think Myles will continue to play. I think he's going to be in pain. I think he's going to need a lot of treatment during the week, and then he's going to have to do the best he can in games. Because the one thing that I felt was going to be really important this year is for Myles Garrett to be very strong in those final 6 games of the season, that gauntlet that they have when they're on national television all the time and they're playing the AFC North and they're in the playoffs. That's when you need Myles to be at his best this year. So they're going to have to manage it. They're going to have to monitor it and hope he can make it strong to the finish line.
America, I'm gonna revisit something. You said you don't really necessarily believe in having an identity in terms of you have to run the ball or you have to throw the ball. I think more in terms of what people are saying without an identity is saying that the Browns don't do anything well offensively. They're not very explosive in deep passes. They're not very proficient on third down. They're not very proficient in running the football. So when you watch the Cleveland Browns, you're looking for any sign to say, okay, we can work with this. Like, hey, we're throwing the ball really well short. Our short game is there. Or, hey, we're really doing a good job on outside zone. Or hey, we've been really doing a really good job of getting our receivers matched up on crossing routes. For a lot of people, we're just watching it and we don't see what they are, what they can really say, hey, we're good at this at this point. Are we mistaken when we watch and there just doesn't seem to be any explosive nature to this offense that could put points on the board at a level to win football games?
Well, first of all, it's a brand new offense. Okay. That's number one. It's a brand new offense. It's a work in progress. It's not off the ground yet. It's not functioning the way they want it to yet. Hopefully for them, they will get it together, and all these things that they know they can do well will start happening more in November and December when you need them to be. And then as far as explosiveness is concerned, I mean, you guys saw Amari Cooper drop touchdown passes in each of the first 2 games, and that is very, very significant. That changes the outcome of a football game in some instances. You saw Cedric Tillman drop a very clutch key 4th down pass in this past game. And you know what? If he catches that pass, maybe they go out there and win an ugly game that they probably should have lost by rights with the way everything went up to that point. But if you win the game in the end, you deserve to win the game. But you have to make those plays. You can't be fumbling the ball in the end. You can't be missing an open receiver. You have to be able to play in the clutch. And this new offense, it's just not playing fast yet because it's all new. It's new terminology. In some cases, it's new personnel. It was a struggling wide receiver 1. It's a quarterback coming off of an injury. It's tackles that are suffering with their knee injuries. It's not there yet. But I don't think that means it's not going to be there in November if they can get their protection issues figured out. In the meantime, they can't get their quarterback so hurt that he's not going to be out there for them.
Mary Kay, I want to talk to you about the defensive side of the ball, because I think coming into this season, you knew that the offense was going to be challenging, trying to figure out, how they're going to get going. It was going to take a while for them to get that chemistry, but I thought they was going to lean heavily on that defense. And, last week, obviously, Malik Neighbors ended up having a really good game, and this defense just doesn't look as dominant as it once was. Do you think offensive coordinators and teams have figured out how to be successful against Jim Schwartz?
Well, for starters, I always wondered if the number 1 defense was going to take a little bit of a step back based on the fact that they got a lot of breaks last year in terms of the quarterbacks that they faced, right? They weren't going out there and facing Kyler Murray. They didn't face Aaron Rodgers. They had Trevor Siemian instead of him. They had Trevor Lawrence 6 days out from an ankle injury. They had, it was one thing after another. They had Brock Purdy, who basically was without Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel in that game, in the second half of that football game. And they could have lost it anyways if Jake Moody would have made that game-winning kick, 41 yards. And then as you move through the season, you see, in the season finale, or at least on the Christmas Eve game in Houston, they got Case Keenum instead of CJ Stroud. It was one thing after another like that. And they got, again, Clayton Tune, a 5th-round rookie, instead of Kyler Murray. They just weren't battle tested the way that they were going to be when the schedule first came out. By the time they got to the playoffs, they didn't know what hit them. And CJ Stroud was back, good offense back, and they kind of turned back into maybe what they would have been, which was a good defense, but maybe not the number one defense had they faced the lineup of quarterbacks that they were supposed to.
Mary Kay, just looking ahead at this weekend's game against Las Vegas, it's going to be interesting. I'm sure Browns fans are loving it that they get to go out to Vegas for this game, the ones that are going to go. But, they lose this past weekend to Carolina. I watched a lot of that game. Like Dalton shredded them last week. I'm sure that they're going to come into this game. Antonio Pierce, we know what he's like as a former player and how much he gets that group going. I'm guessing that they're going to be super fired up about this opportunity this weekend, looking at the Browns like it's a kind of a get-right game for them, being at home. This game worries me a lot. I'm very concerned about going on the road after what just happened to Cleveland this past weekend against a Giants team. Everybody thought, including myself, that they should have won. I mean, the Giants are not a great football team, but the Browns ended up losing that game. I'm talking way too long here. Let me ask you this to get to the point. How tough is this matchup? God, that was long.
It's a game of matchups, and we all know that. It's a game of matchups, and if you can capitalize on some mismatches, then you have a good chance of winning the game. And that's the thing that I think the Browns have to look at in this game is Max Crosby, one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL, Christian Wilkins, amazing defensive tackle, and what they're going to do up front. If they take a page out of the Giants playbook, which, by the way, was an amazing game plan on both sides of the ball. I'll tell you what, Brian Daboll was passed over for the Browns head coaching job, former Browns offensive coordinator. I'm sure he wanted to utilize his playbook to the fullest and really have some great things in store for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. They played a heck of a football game. But if the Raiders follow the Giants blueprint, they will blitz a ton. They will take advantage of the fact that they have some challenging issues along the offensive line, especially on the edges right now. They'll move Max Crosby around. They'll do some of the things that Micah Parsons did. And that's going to be the key for the Browns, is to figure out how to make sure that they can move the ball and protect Deshaun Watson with what these guys are going to do up front. That, I think, is going to be the key to the game.
Mary Kay, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon, and hopefully we can get a win and get back to 2-2 in this season. We appreciate you.
Sure. Thanks a lot, guys.